Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. This is the video where I take all the research that I gathered through the week and show you how I use it to build lineups for Draftkings. In my previous videos, I covered the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and defensive special teams positions. I developed player pools for each of these positions. Now it's time for us to put them together. I'm going to outline the pool, summarize it real quick. I did add a couple players, so I want to mention those. And then I want to show you how I take these players and I build lineups each week. I do use an optimizer sometimes where I take all these players, just the players that I've researched. I put them in the optimizer, select about 20 lineups, and have it spit out the lineups to me. I'm able, on the optimizer that I use, I'm able to adjust the percentages. You can find optimizers. Some of them are free on some websites. Some of them you have to pay for. But I use this. I do not use mass multi-entry where I build 150 lineups. I mean, good for the guys that can do that. I don't do that. But after I build like 20 lineups, I'll use those and I'll take them and I'll use them in different contests. I might put 2 or 3 in a contest, but I play a variety of contests, and that's how I play Draftkings every week. I do participate in the Millie Maker. I put one lineup in that each week. I know there are thousands and thousands and thousands of entries, but I feel like I got just as good a shot as anyone else if I get that right combination, which I have done before. I've mentioned in my previous videos, I have won a couple large GPP. One had over 29,000 entries, and I only had one entry, and the other one had over 20,000. It was actually an after 4 o'clock NFL. My 1 o'clock contests weren't doing so well. I played only the 4 o'clock games and over 20,000 entries. I had 2 $1 entries and won that contest as well. And I have placed in several contests as well. So first, let me go through the player pool that we developed through the week. Quarterbacks, remember efficiency, matchup, game totals, game script, and don't forget to factor in ownership as well. If to gain, to differentiate yourself. Sometimes in larger tournaments, you want to be a little bit different. In the cash games, the head-to-heads, you want to take those players that do have a high floor. You don't want to take so many chances in those tournaments. But this week, Jackson and Mahomes, I know, right? Duh. But they do fit all the, the efficiency. The matchup is good. High totals. The game script, if it goes back and forth. One thing to be careful with that game, though, is the weather is going to be in question, and so you want to make sure you look at that. I mean, pouring down rain can affect the passing game, so make sure you take a look at that tomorrow. Running backs, we're going to be, first let me give you the rest of the quarterbacks. Prescott, Allen, Stafford, and Winston. Winston's actually one of my favorites this week. Running backs, we're looking at touches, the matchup, game script, and lastly, ownership. If you have 2 similar running backs projected for the same, similar game scripts, prices are similar. If you need a tiebreaker, you can look at ownership at that as the last source for deciding by using that. This week, the running back are McCaffrey, Barkley, Elliott, Mack. Make sure you check on Mack. He has a questionable tag. Let me look at that real quick. I'm going to see if they mentioned him. I had looked at it earlier, and Marley still got a questionable tag. Listed as questionable for Sunday's game against the Falcons after returning to a limited practice Friday. Mack missed both Wednesday and Thursday with his return Friday, albeit in a limited fashion, offering hope that he'll be able to suit up for Sunday's 1 o'clock contest. If, however, he's unable to go or limited this weekend, Naheem Hines and Jordan Wilkins will be next up for touches out of the Colts Week 3 backfield. So 90 minutes before game time, 11:30 tomorrow, check the injury report. If you're going to use Mac, make sure he's going to be in the game because you cannot compete with a zero. Dalvin Cook, Austin Eckler, Frank Gore, Lindsey, and I've added James White and Ingram due to the matchups, the game script. I like Ingram in case it is going to be rainy, sloppy game. They might have to depend on the run. And lastly, Johnson from Arizona. I added him as well because of the matchup. Wide receiver, we have the following. Tampa Bay's Evans, Allen from the Chargers, Sanders from Denver, Galladay from Detroit. Galladay's one of my favorites this weekend. Arizona's Bird. Bird is an extreme option at $3,000. This guy's getting 7 targets a game. He's somebody to look for to put in a couple lineups. Thielen from Minnesota, Kuti from Houston. I added Thielen and Kuti. Diggs from Minnesota, Whiteside from Philadelphia, Valdez Scantling from Green Bay. I added him. Pittsburgh's Washington. I wanted to mention this. Washington hasn't done much this year, but now he's teaming up with Rudolph, who's replacing Ben Roethlisberger. Rudolph and Washington played at Oklahoma State together, and in their careers, they combined for 33 touchdowns. In the last 2 preseasons, when Rudolph was in the game with Washington, he was targeting Washington a lot. So he's a sleeper. He's at $3,500. He's someone that you consider if you need to free up some salary. Washington and Bird are a couple places that you can go. Cobb from Dallas, Fitzgerald from Arizona, Perryman from Tampa Bay, Buffalo's John Brown, Hollins from Philadelphia, Aguilar from Philadelphia, Cincinnati's Tyler Boyd, and Tampa Bay's Godwin. I added both of those due to matchups. Tight ends, we have Howard from Tampa Bay, Carolina's Olsen, Dallas's Witten, Philadelphia's Ertz, Baltimore's Andrews. I added Kittle from San Francisco and Ingram from the Giants based on matchups, and Pittsburgh's McDonald. Defensive special teams, I have Minnesota, the Chargers, Buffalo, Patriots, and Packers. And going against all of my things that I use to select my defenses, I have the Ravens. I like the Ravens in larger GPP tournaments due to their ownership. They're less than 1% owned right now, and they could be real sneaky and could potentially win GPP. Or be a part of a winning lineup. Last week, if you didn't have New England with their 37 points, you didn't have much of a chance to compete. Now, I take all those players and I plug it into an optimizer. There's optimizers on some websites have them for free. You can pay for them on some sites. There's a lot of different sites out there. DFS Army, I think Awesome Mo, Roto Grinders, a lot of those sites have them. The optimizer I have, I'm able to actually control the amount that I want to use of players if I want. For instance, and I run off 20 lineups. Like I said, I don't do the mass multi-entry where I play 150 lineups. I don't do that. But I spit out about 20 lineups and look at it how they're arranged. And in this particular week, I did control a few players. For instance, Ezekiel Elliott, I wanted him. I printed out 20 lineups. I wanted him in 80% of them. I wanted him in 16 of the 20 lineups. So here we go. I put these in the optimizer a little bit ago. This is the very first lineup that it spit out. First up at quarterback was Josh Allen from Buffalo. Josh is right here, 5,900. Ezekiel Elliott. Zeke's at close to the top, 8,900. Second running back was Dalvin Cook. It had Bird at 3,000. So let's go down here and find Mr. Bird. Here's Mr. Cage, not related to the bird. Stupid joke, but here we go. Bird. Arcega Whiteside from Philadelphia, which is, he was 3,600. 3,500. 3,500, I'm sorry. Keenan Allen from the Chargers. He was the spend up wide receiver. Tight end, Greg Olsen. Olsen is another one to watch out for. He has, I'll just show you here real quick. Olsen back, anticipates playing in Sunday's game against the Cardinals. Olsen is listed as questionable despite upgrading to a full practice on Friday. His availability doesn't seem to be truly in question, but cautious fantasy owners will want to check back to be sure before Sunday's 4:05 kickoff. So definitely check that. Hour and a half before game time, 2:30, 3 o'clock. There are a couple tight ends down there at the 4 o'clock. That's the bad thing if you choose players at 4 o'clock and for some reason they don't play, you have to have a backup plan. And a good backup for him would be Jared Cook, who is at $3,800. So you could plug Cook in if something happened to Olsen, but make sure you check that. Okay. So the flex position, optimizer spit out Johnson from Arizona. And the defensive special team was the Buffalo Bills. Now this was the first lineup that is spit out. Right off the bat, I'm not real excited about the Arcega Whiteside. I know it put it in there because of price and it was in the player pool. But if I wanted to take him out, I still have $3,500. And I mentioned Washington as a potential good play. And then say I'm gonna well no, I'll leave that the way it is. So if I like Washington. So now I only have one spend up receiver. These other two are the number 3 receivers on their team, kind of chancy, but the wide receiver position has been really unpredictable the first 2 weeks of the NFL. So there you go. There's the first lineup that the optimizers spit out. It used, well, except for Washington, which I added, but used every bit of the salary available. Another one, and I went down to like number 10 or 11. I look through the lineups and I find the ones that I like and I pull them out. This was another one that it built. Wentz at running back. It had the dinosaur, Frank Gore. It had Philip Lindsay. So kind of a spin down at a running back. Wide receiver, it had Cobb from Dallas, which I like a lot. It had Galladay, which is about 6,600, I believe, Galladay. Yeah, 6,600. Mike Evans. Ertz. Spin up at tight end. Not all the way up. It's a pretty big drop from the top to the second one, $1,400. And Ezekiel Elliott in the flex. And the defense was the Vikings. That's a pretty good lineup there. It's balanced. Yeah, Wentz teamed up with Ertz, which if Jeffrey and Jackson are out tomorrow, you could see a situation where he leans on Ertz. Ertz gets a lot of targets. You have Frank Gore going against the worst rushing defense this year so far. Lindsey that's a pretty good matchup against Green Bay. They do throw passes to him out of the backfield. Cobb in the game against Miami, and Galladay is one of my favorite picks of the week. And that's a really good. You have Wentz and Ertz, and then you bring it back with Galladay. That does make a lot of sense. And if that's one of the higher, if that game's back and forth, it's high scoring. You're getting Wentz and Ertz, and you're coming back with Galladay. That it makes a lot of sense. Then you have Zeke, who's one of the top picks for the week. So there you go. And then, like I said, is this the week to spend up at wide receiver and maybe spend down at running back, where the previous 2 weeks have been spend up at running back and spend way, way, way down on wide receiver? Last week, the two of the receivers that were in the winning millionaire lineup were less than 1% owned. Preston Williams from the Dolphins and Robinson from Kansas City. And Kansas City actually did that 2 weeks in a row. First week they used Watkins, who wasn't projected in the top five, and then in the next week Robinson went off and scored 38 points and was in the winning lineup. So finding value and differentiating yourself using the game script. That's how I go about building these lineups, and like just building a lineup based on what I like in particular. If I went down and this is going to be using all the players from the pool: Winston, running back, Elliott, running back. Let's see here that I like. It's on our player pool. Let me look at our player pool here real quick. Don't remember them all right off the. There's a situation where I could get Elliott and Barkley in here. Now I'm going to have to spin down at receiver, and I'm going to do that by going down to Bird. See, Bird. Here we go. Going to take Washington at 3,500. Another receipt. See, that's leaving me 5,000 per player, and I know I'm going to show you. Sometimes I'll skip over to defense, and I never punt this position. I don't punt any positions, but defensive, so I can see a true value of what I have left. Defense. I like the Chargers at home. They're a home favorite, and they fit the formula that I like to use. Then I'm going to look at my tight end. I like teaming Winston up with Howard. I also like teaming Winston up with the second wide receiver, Evans. That leaves me 7,200 in my flex. I really, really like this lineup a lot. And I've just built this. These are all players that are in the player pool. So I have 7,200 left. There's a starting point. There's Eckler, Kelsey, if I wanted Keenan Allen. Like Keenan Allen a lot. That's a really nice balanced lineup. All those players are in the player pool. I didn't have that wrote down. I just did that based on what I like. I like the Winston teaming up with Evans and Howard. The Giants are not great against the tight end. They've been giving up a ton through the air. What I need for that to do good is I have it right here. I need Barkley to come back and do some scoring for the Giants. And supposedly Jones, the guy replacing Eli, this is going to be an upgrade at quarterback, even though he's a rookie. So we'll see. But yeah, so you got Winston, Evans, and Howard, and you bring it back with Barkley. Then you got Zeke in there. This is a really strong lineup, and I like this a lot. I'm actually going to save this one to use later. But that's how I do it. I take time through the week, build my lineups based on, I look at the game totals, I factor in the matchups and the game scripts, the value, and I put it all together and do what I think makes sense. So there you go. Gave you a couple lineups, wrap them up, put them under your DFS tree for you, and I wish you good luck tomorrow. I will be back on Monday to do a recap show. I wish you the best. I appreciate your time. If you watched all my videos, thanks for hanging in there with me. This is my second week that I've completed. Good luck to you guys. If you guys have good luck, I'm going to have good luck because I'm going to be using the same players. As I said, I'll be back on Monday with the recap. Perhaps do a little bit on the Monday night showdown game. And if you would subscribe, hit the like button, the notification bell, let you know when my next video drops. I really appreciate it. Have a good evening and good luck tomorrow. Thanks a lot.